Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. We're your hosts. I'm Sybil Amuti.
And I am Brandis Daniel.
What's up, great girlfriends?
Yeah, what's been going on?
Man, Brandis made me the most amazing breakfast this morning, y'all. I actually felt like I was at the W or something. First of all, I spent the night, right, because I wanted to spend some quality time with Sky. So I wake up to these plush towels, and I had to check the tag on them because I said, these towels are amazing. Those boss towels.
Oh, yeah.
Girl. So she has like hotel grade towels, which not I'm not talking about like La Quinta. I'm talking about W. She got like W towels.
Oh.
And then I come downstairs and my breakfast plate is amazing. I mean, it was good.
You know what, Sybil? Last night I got almost 6 hours of sleep.
Praise him.
Oh,
praise him.
Thank you, Jesus. So, you know what? You deserve it.
She was up skipping around, y'all. I was like, yes. I don't get breakfast like this at my house.
I went to bed at 6 last night, and I told Sybil I was just going to take a little nap.
Child, that nap turned into midnight.
Rich
she
came
downstairs
in.
smiling.
Rich was happy too.
Rich was happy.
He slept right on through his 9 o'clock.
Everybody left me and Sky. We were just sitting there just chilling. And y'all, she is the sweetest piece of pie. Oh my gosh. She didn't give me any trouble.
Oh,
none.
Yay,
we took a little tour. Like we walked and we talked about life.
She played you.
She did. She definitely played
she got
me.
you walking and
I tried to put
her
down and she was like, no. And then Brandis is like, she loves her boppy pillow. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to put her on the boppy. And she's looking at me like, actually, you're going to walk me. You're going to walk me and we're going to talk. That's what you're going to do.
God totally played Sybil the same way she
sure
plays
did.
Rich.
And I did it. I'm like, I love her.
She does not play me that way.
And she stayed up. And she was just looking and just reminds me of how like fresh my kids used to be.
Aww.
She don't smell like outside. Her feet don't stink. Her breath. My kids got morning breath these days.
You are so
Girl,
stupid.
they take baths out of necessity. They be smelling like the school.
You're so stupid.
So what's up?
Oh, nothing. I mean, Sky is the only thing that's going on in my
what's
world
up?
right.
But you're doing it though. I'm seeing you.
Is what's going on in my world right now.
You're doing a good job, Brandis.
So amazing. Thank you.
You are. And you holding down HFR?
I'm holding down HFR. We're launching an e-commerce shop for the holidays, pop-up shop. So working on that. What's funny actually is that I'm working on probably more projects than I've ever worked on right now.
Because what does Sky do for you?
Because Sky is like kicking my butt. She's like, she don't even know it. Like her presence. I'm like, oh, all these things I've been thinking about doing. No, I actually have to get them done.
Yeah.
And that is like with fear. That's with me like not feeling like I can do it. That's like with all kind of like not feeling like I'm ready for it. But I'm like, I'm about to do it.
Isn't that awesome?
It just
I think every mom would say, like, your kids give you this extra edge.
Yeah.
They put you in the gear and they don't need, it's not them trying to do it. It's just you wanting to make everything great for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So yeah. So I have like 3 projects going on right now. 2 that I've been procrastinating on forever. They're like in process.
Yeah.
As we speak.
Wow.
So 2016 is going to be incredible.
It really is.
And it's just being set up now.
Girlfriends, I hope y'all are preparing yourselves for 2016 because Brandis and I are going into like complete great girlfriend madness.
Oh, it's going to be
in 2016. There's so many fun things that we're excited about. And I mean, independently and collectively, because, you know, this is like the passion project, one of the passion projects that we share, but it's going to be dope.
Yeah, so like 2016, like there's so many things I have procrastinated on for so long that are now like all in process. So I am like over the moon excited about 2016.
Me too.
It's going to be insane in a great way. Yeah. So what's going on with you, Sid?
You know what? A whole bunch of family stuff right now. With the holidays here.
Yes.
I'm doing a lot of prep. I have my mom coming in town. Kwaku's mom is coming. Yeah. So and I'm somewhat hosting like a dinner for Thanksgiving, and
Who's
I'm
cooking?
not me. I don't do it. No, just so you all know, like if you come to my house for any kind of dinner, it's likely it's going to be like a potluck of some sort. It's not going to be. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want people depending on me to deliver quality meals.
Why?
I don't want to be known as the cook.
Why?
Because I don't want that reputation. I don't even want people depending on me to be like, girl, bring your mac and cheese. So I don't cook it.
You are terrible.
I don't want that to be part of my reputation. That's not part of my brand identity.
But you can.
I can, but I don't want people to depend on it. I have friends, when I see them, I'll be like, ooh, did she make her so-and-so? I don't want that pressure. So I don't cook like hardcore for people.
That's hilarious.
My kids know.
You're bad.
I'm scared though, when they get grown, are they going to come home for Thanksgiving? Or are they going to be like, we're going over so-and-so's house? Because my mama don't make turkey.
You're going to start making it.
You think so?
Yeah, because they're going to get older and they're going to start requesting it.
But they won't if they don't think I make it. You see what I'm saying?
They're going to start asking, especially Dylan.
Well, they're not going to know it's mine.
You don't think Dylan's going to start? Dylan is sassy and saucy.
She is sassy and saucy.
So at some point, she's going to be like, Mom.
Cook something?
Yeah.
Man. Well, right now, nobody's asking me to cook anything outstanding.
Exactly.
So I have people that, what I do is I have the host house.
Okay.
I got the lights on. I got the space.
Yes.
And then
you have a beautiful home.
Thank you. And so you just bring all your stuff and I'm going to lay it out for you and make it pretty and you can stay as long as you want. But if it comes to like me and my custom dishes,
ain't happening. We'll see. So, in about 4 more years when Dylan is like fully opinionated and no,
as if now she's not.
I know now she is. Right now she don't recognize that for Thanksgiving you're supposed to have good home cooking meal. But once she realizes that, I think you'll be cooking.
But she does get home cooked meals, just not from me.
We'll see.
Like people bring food they prepared, or you could cook in my kitchen. But I'm not like I'm not gonna be up early preparing food. I'm not gonna cook through the night. I'm not basting no turkey. I'm not doing any of that stuff.
We'll see.
That's not who I am. But I love a great meal. You know that much. So
of course. We'll see, Sybil. We'll see how this goes.
So now I'm just doing holiday right now because, well, you know, this is year end, so I have a lot of things going on as far as projects. Getting some partnerships activated for some of the projects that I'm working on, and getting the funding secured for you know, the beginning of the year.
Right.
So there's a lot of that year end pressure that's taking place right now, and you know a lot about that.
Yes,
and
I do.
So I've been working on a lot of that for projects, and also really trying to set out what the beginning of the year looks like.
Okay.
Like how do I want it to look, and that's being. Where do I want to invest most of my time in January?
Right.
Do I want to spend it on more of my projects, more of other people's projects? Do I want to go into a pre-existing entity and like lend my services? You know, trying to figure that part out. I got a little bit of time to think about it. Yeah. Speaking of which,
our topic for today.
You know, so many of our girlfriends, you all reached out to us and have done so since July, really wanting to talk about work-life balance.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
that is such a hot
mega topic.
At every single panel that I go to, where women is on the panel, the Boss Network, shout out to Kamika, they talked about work-life balance there.
Yeah.
Every single panel I've ever gone to since I've been in New York City, where it's women focused, that is the big topic.
Wow.
Like I think I went to a ColorCom luncheon, and Michelle Thornton from Centric, she's the SVP at Centric. She was on a panel. People asked her about balance, work-life balance. It's like the big question. People want to know, how are you managing it all?
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is that we like to fill our plates. Right? We love a good plate as women. We love to have like a lot going on. And then we get all of these great things going on, and we're like, help, help.
Yes.
I got too much going on.
Yeah.
When the truth of the matter is, we stacked all of these amazing things.
We sure did.
And we went and knocked these doors down, got them open, kicked them in, and then we're like, okay, how do I juggle all of these things that I placed on myself? So it's kind of like self-inflicted success in some ways. And we're trying to figure out what to do with it. And it's not an impossible question to answer. It's just putting it all in perspective.
Right.
And understanding like one woman's life looks different from another woman's life.
Right, because people are at different stages.
Yes, and the formulas are different.
Totally different. And even as Sybil and I were talking about kind of this conversation in work-life balance, we got into this huge, long dialogue about which way to kind of approach this topic. Yeah. And so we decided that we would just kind of scratch the surface with this episode, but then what we do is actually have for the next few months, like one episode a month dedicated to work-life balance, and maybe bring in some guests too to kind of talk more on it, because I think you have to think about it from the single girl's perspective. You got to think about it from the married woman's perspective, or the woman who's just in a serious relationship, and then you also have to think about it from a mother's perspective, which is
welcome.
Thank you. And because I'm like fresh into motherhood, like for me, I've lived it as the single woman for, not the single woman, but the married woman with no kids for a while, which quite honestly is different from single, but it's still not, this level of juggling that I feel like I'm about to have to do right now. So
no, it's true. And just even to that point, on the mom side, when as your child develops and they begin to have a calendar, like,
oh my God, girl, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so like they have agendas. Like my children have things that I can't like forsake the idea that my children have activities. So I'm like, no, Sam can't do football because I want to moderate panel. I want to be in this city, and Sam can't. I have to balance out and prioritize everyone's needs,
right?
Or I can't go here because my husband has this to do, or we have to. I have to, as a mom and a wife as a woman, wife, mom. You have to prioritize everyone's needs,
right?
So that the entire household can prosper, and it just it doesn't get the amount of blessing doesn't get any smaller. I would call it blessing because it's not pressure.
Right.
This is a gift.
Right.
All of this that we have is a gift.
It is a gift.
It's a gift. That's first. We're going to get into that. But knowing that it's a gift, it doesn't get any lighter. You get a greater amount of that blessing pouring in.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, the structure, the chemistry changes at every stage. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So we have to dive into this. And I really love the fact that like you said, women are constantly asking this question. It's because it's something that you have to constantly keep your eyes on. You have to constantly keep your eyes on? Right now, my life looks different than it did last month.
Right.
Your life literally looks totally different than it did last month.
Totally different.
Totally different. One day, everything changed.
Everything changed.
And everything in your model has to shift. And if you don't make the shifts, you feel overloaded by the things that are meant to be a reward to you.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think that's why we constantly hear women asking it. And it's not, it's not a 30-year-old's question, a 20-year-old, a 50-year-old. It's every woman.
It's every single woman.
Yeah.
I can remember I told you earlier when I moved to New York and I was working, like hustling on my job. And my biggest goal is I just want to do a great job. Like I wanted to get ahead on my job. I wanted to be promoted. I wanted to make more money. So I put in a ton of time on my job. And then I was going to school. And it was like, okay, so then how do I balance like just time for me, time for friends, time for dating into all of that? And then it was, the stage where I was dating Rich. And then it was like, so how do I make time for him? How do I make time for this business that I just started, plus my job, plus school. So it's like your life just keeps evolving. And
absolutely, even for like we had a little chat earlier. We're talking about for single women who were saying, I am ready for marriage. I am ready. I am ready. Just insert a man where.
Right.
Insert.
Oh, you know what?
where?
Because I have girlfriends who literally have their calendars booked.
So where does he fit?
When I tell you booked,
at the nail appointment.
I had to tell one of my girlfriends, because I introduced her to this guy, and I said, let me tell you something. Do not talk to this man about your calendar.
Because he won't see in his face.
A man is not going to compete with your calendar. You're talking about something, let me look at my calendar and see what date we can make this work. I said, who wants to compete with your crazy calendar?
No.
Nobody. It's not worth it. He doesn't even know you to be willing to put in that type of like investment and be like, oh yeah, I'm actually going to compete with all these things she has going on. So
that's the thing, ladies. So we're going to dive into this and pretty aggressively, and we're going to just kind of tap into some of what we know about work-life balance. And one thing I want to share with you all, that my husband, Kwaku, that man, anyway, I ain't going to pause on Kwaku, but Kwaku said to me earlier this year, and I told Brandis, I wish he would have said this years ago. It would have changed my perspective, but he said it now. So he goes in, we're talking about balance and how we want to, how we tend to want to have everything level, balanced, right? Everything sort of equal in its weight. And he was like, you don't want to strive for balance. We actually want to have harmony. And I thought that was such a strong statement, because it is so true that everything won't balance.
No.
There will always be a more aggressive pressure coming from one side than the other, or you have to put more time into one thing than the other. And it's not even about juggling things, because you could juggle and you drop a ball, and it's about having harmony between all of the parts of your life that are meant to be in place at this time.
Absolutely.
That's what it is. It's harmony.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Ooh.
So how do you then create harmony between taking care of yourself? That means, because Sybil goes and get her hair done. Let me tell y'all that.
Sybil, take care of Sybil.
So between taking care of you, as in like going to get your hair done and doing the things that matter to Sybil, spending enough time and giving Sam and Dylan what they need, keeping spice in your marriage with you and Kwaku,
girl, this
running a successful strategy business. You are always having brunch or hanging out with your girlfriends. It seems like you make great time for that and being there for us and for me. And then you volunteer at the Covenant House.
Yeah. I need a nap.
And then Sybil stays really fit. How do you create harmony? Y'all should see her face right now.
I'm like, I want to go to sleep.
So how? Because I'm not going to use the word balance. And how do you balance all this?
Because I don't balance.
So how is there harmony created between all of those things that you seem to really keep afloat very well in your life?
Okay, so that's
a loaded question.
It is so loaded, but it's a great question, and my answer is going to sound very cliche, but I have to say, in my life, God is first.
Okay.
I only do the things that God is leading me to do.
Okay.
So I'm very instinctively driven around where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to doing and what feels right for my life and what doesn't.
Okay.
I use a very strong sense of discernment around, should I be at this brunch or not?
Okay.
I got invited, but should I go or should I send a card or a note?
Okay.
And prioritizing my time. And because of that, my husband and I practice that God-led instinctive placement. And so, even as you start talking about all the stuff that I have going on, everything that I have going on right now is led, or I've been instructed by God to do it. And my husband and I are in alignment. We both are in agreement that this is where God wants me, and this is where God wants our family to be. So it makes it easy for us to make decisions about whether or not I should be somewhere, or whether or not I need to cut back on my schedule, or whether or not we need to add a brunch or a prayer or whatever extra things, or travel or make commitments, because we really do heavily rely on what did God say.
Okay.
What did God say is my first question.
Okay.
Is this, Brandis wants me to come to Brooklyn, right? Brandis told me too. You told me. And I wasn't prepared for this. But God knew. God knew. First of all, y'all, I live 2 hours hard from Brooklyn.
Oh, it's so funny that
No, you know what? This
you
is
know
my
what?
time. So
You know
no,
what?
this is
It's
my
so
time.
It's so funny that now it's a big deal how far you live from Brooklyn.
This is my
Whereas
time.
before you were like, come to Jersey, come to Jersey, come to
Because
Jersey.
you were pregnant and driving. That wasn't so bad.
Go on.
So it
See,
takes me about 2 hours to come to
this is
Brooklyn.
hilarious. Go ahead.
But it's cold.
Go ahead. I was
Okay.
pregnant.
You know what?
That trumps it being cold, but go ahead.
She was riding the comfort of her new car.
No.
All right. And I got 2 kids. That don't give me nothing. I don't know. Y'all have to give a vote on is pregnant greater than 2 kids?
Oh, no. You can pull out.
Which one is greater? I don't know.
Go ahead.
But no, so Brenda said, back in October, we knew in November I was going to be coming to Brooklyn to do these recordings. We didn't know Sky was going to be here. We thought you were going to be pregnant and doing this. But anyway, coming to Brooklyn for me takes a lot of time because I have to leave the house at a certain time. I got to prep with, things to do on my commute. I have to bring my laptop so I can either work or, do some blogging, whatever I'm doing. I have to balance out that commute time because that's 4 hours in one day that I'm spending towards traveling. I'm not saying I hate it. I'm saying that in order for me to balance out my responsibilities, I have to make up for that time by what are you doing on that commute? And then I have to reprioritize what's important to me. So, for example, I knew in November, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to set my meeting times around the days that I'm heading to Brooklyn. I'm going to have to make sure that I spend my New York afternoons at a certain time. So I have to revamp some of my schedule so that I can accommodate, because I'm not going to be running back and forth to the city and missing my kids and not being home in time to spend time with my kids. So I have to prioritize according to how God is leading me to do it.
Right.
Now, if you had said coming to Brooklyn in November and God was like, no, then we would have been Skyping these sessions because I would have had to, I know we need to accomplish the recordings, but I also know that God is not leading me just because Brandis is saying come to Brooklyn doesn't mean that I need to do it. But it was something that God said, yes. How is it helping us twofold? I get to spend time with Sky. I get to spend time with you. You get to take a break and take a nap.
Right.
You know what I mean? We get to actually have the FaceTime that's necessary for us to build. And it's using that discernment. So that's first is like God discernment. The second thing is I am not afraid to tell people no.
Right.
Like no is a big part of my vocabulary.
Absolutely.
Or if I have to do something that infringes on my time with my family, you might get 1 or 2 of my family members with me.
Okay.
So you might get Kwaku and a kid.
Right.
You might get 2 kids.
Right.
You might get me and a daughter.
Right.
But you're going to probably get an extra person because you're infringing on my family time.
Right.
And an example of that is just last Saturday, I had to go into the city for a fitting for something. I brought Dylan.
Right.
Because that was her time.
Right.
And I knew I shouldn't take that from her. Just make her a part of that so she can experience it. A good example I got from that is June Ambrose takes her kids with her to almost everything that she does. Yeah. And I love how her kids are now living and breathing that experience and they understand what their mom is doing as a mompreneur.
Absolutely.
So I took that before my kids were old enough to do all of the, running with me. But I took that example and said, my kids are going. I'm going to take my kids. And then when they don't want to go, when they say, I'd rather do this, I respect that.
Right.
You can stay home. But the other thing is, when it comes to brunches and making sure that I'm balancing out my kids' needs and my husband's needs, just Saturday, one of my dearest, Kristen's brunch was on Saturday. And initially I was going to be able to go. But my son's football schedule got changed. It was his last game of the season.
Okay.
What do I choose?
Right.
Kristen's going away brunch, who I love Kristen dearly, or my son's very first football season and his last game.
Right.
I chose my son, and I expected, Kristen knows how important balance is to me, harmony, that she would understand. So I had to tell everybody, unfortunately, I'm not able to make it because it's my son's last football game.
Right.
But how about I come for a girls' trip to Boston?
Absolutely.
So I'll spend time with Kristen in another way.
Right.
But it's always knowing.
And having girlfriends who understand. Right.
Now, it's important. And if you don't understand, you can't be a part of my system.
Right.
You can't be a part of my system. So I make sure that people in my life understand my system. They have to respect. If I say no and they don't understand, I have some friends that try to test my nose. I have one friend, I love you, and she knows what I'm talking about. She's probably listening. she's always trying to plan me out 6 months in advance. You want to go on this trip and so forth. And I explained to her, I can't plan that far ahead.
Right.
You can do that. You're single.
Right.
I can't plan to go to Ibiza in June.
Right.
I might be able to plan it in May,
right.
but my life doesn't have that much stability and scheduling where I can plan it now and definitely be there.
Right.
What I can say is I'm interested, and in May I can regroup, but don't count the group rate. Don't count me in on it.
Right.
Because I can't commit to it just yet.
Right.
I really can't do that. I won't do that to my kids' schedule. I won't do that to the great girlfriend schedule, to my
right.
business schedule, my husband. I won't do it unless God is like, go.
Okay.
So that, I hope that helped out.
No, that definitely helped out.
Yeah. I'm not afraid to say no.
No, I think that that's the only way you can kind of figure some of this stuff out. And I'm honestly, guys, let me just say this. Sybil is the expert on this topic. I am making Sybil the expert because Sybil, I'm just starting with the kids.
Yeah, but you have really amazing harmony as a woman and a wife. And I'll say this too. You guys might not know this, but Brandis has a really great girlfriend network. And she is always present. I mean, I could be talking to Brandis about something on the phone and she'll say, well, let me get off because I got to go head to see so-and-so in Jersey because she's, going to be home for a few days and I need to take care of her. Or you'll be like, so-and-so's moving, let me head to Mount Vernon. Or I got to go to Joy's auntie's barbecue because the aunt is in town. And I mean, this is all happening in one day. And you'll be on a conference call for HFR. I'm sitting in the car with you. We just recorded for Great Girlfriends. You're pregnant and you're on the way to support your friends. And it's not an overload.
It doesn't.
It's not an overload. It's harmony.
It doesn't feel like an overload.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
And it's not pressure.
It doesn't feel pressure.
So you actually are your own expert at it because I've seen you.
Well, we'll see. Well, now this guy is in the picture. Now I have to regroup with this guy in the picture to see like how this all looks. And right now she requires a lot of time. Mm-hmm. So but the good news is she's such a sweet baby. And like now, me and Sybil are recording, and she's like literally 5 feet from us, knocked out.
She's out. None of these big laughs bother her.
Right.
None of this taps in. Well, I have a question for you, Brandis. How do you keep your friendships intact when your personal life and your business life start to evolve?
So my whole life is like one big pot of soup.
It is a gumbo.
It's a gumbo. My life is a gumbo.
It's a gumbo.
It's not separate dishes.
That is so true.
My life is one big pot of gumbo.
Yeah.
And when something doesn't like work in that gumbo, it just
wrong seasoning.
Yeah, it just don't work.
What's an example of something that has tried to get into the gumbo that doesn't work?
So we did the episode on friendships, and I think what episode did I speak about this? I think when like friends, like if I have like a friend and they're requiring more from me than I'm able to give, or they're wanting me to fill a void for them, like not just be there. We talked about this in the last like one episode recently, but they don't want me to be their icing, but they want me to be their flour.
Be the cake and all the heavy ingredients on it.
And the minute like I have somebody like that come into my life, like that doesn't fit into my gumbo. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, the gumbo for me is everything goes into one pot. All my friends know all my projects that I have going on for the most part, my big important projects. They're really supportive of my marriage. They're really supportive of my business. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I don't have to separate my life or I don't have to segment my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't know really how to function. So it's like, I can be at my friend's house and have a meeting for HFR. And it's not like a big deal. It's not like, I don't have a friend who's saying, dang, why she even come over here if she was going to take a call for HFR? Or why she come over here if she was going to take a nap? Because I'll take a nap at somebody's house in a heartbeat. Yeah. So it's like all of those things have to work. Yeah. They all have to work, and they all have to work together. Mm-hmm. So even when I started my business, my friends were such a big piece of that. They were the ones who over the years have done so many things
Mm-hmm.
in supporting me with my business, in supporting me with my relationship. So it's like all of it has always fit together. And I think that's really important. I think it's tough to have all these different things going on when they're segmented. Like
Right.
I wouldn't know how to have friends or really great friendships where they didn't know anything about HFR.
Right.
Like that'd
Right.
be really difficult for me.
Or
Or
they
they didn't
felt
really
competitive.
support. Or they
Mhm.
felt like they were competing with my business or
Mhm.
competing with my relationship. That would be really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really hard for me to do. So all my world works together.
Right. You know, that's very important to what you're saying. And I think we're very blessed in this way that our husbands participate in our vision. Our husbands understand like what God has placed on our lives and what we're meant to be in this world, and they support it.
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
if there were friction there in the closest relationships, it makes it very hard to have balance. So I feel like a lot of women struggle with that sometimes if the people in your closest proximity don't support your vision
Yeah,
or don't support all the pieces to your puzzle.
Well, I will say this too, Sybil. I always tell, I have, a couple of friends who've asked me, like, it seems like Rich is really supportive of you.
Mm-hmm.
But I always say, make him a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Like, because a lot of times I'm very dreamy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very dreamy.
No. Are you serious? I would never guess
and
that.
Rich is very black and white, so it works really well in terms of just creating a balance. And it's tough. I mean, in the beginning, it was really tough for me to hear his feedback and take his opinions because sometimes they were so different from mine.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, I've learned that he has a lot of wisdom around things, and he also thinks like 5 steps ahead, and I don't. Mm-hmm. So it's a really great balance for us now. So I know that pretty much anything I do business-wise, I run it past him first.
That's the same thing with Kwaku because I would say if in a relationship, obviously there's a lot of evolution that happens in terms of there are things that I'm doing now that I wasn't doing when we first met.
Right.
There's things that Kwaku does now that he wasn't doing when we first met. We've grown so much together in terms of our vision and our growth. And all these things have just started to manifest differently. If I were doing 4 of the things that I'm doing now when we first met, Kwaku wouldn't have been able to accept me. He would have felt like I wasn't ready for him or that I didn't have enough space for him, enough time for him. And so what I've learned is to not push things too fast. I've learned to just allow things to evolve as they need to be. Granted, back then, I always had ideas of where I would go, and I was very anxious.
Right.
But I also wanted to see how I could invest in a relationship and build that too. Right. So I didn't apply too much pressure to any one space.
Right.
And I think it's really important to note that if you are applying pressure or you're pushing things that may not be in season, sometimes it makes you feel overwhelmed by it.
Absolutely.
Meaning, if I were trying to do a podcast back then with you, when Kwaku and I were dating,
I couldn't have even done this last year.
It just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked. He would have been like, you're choosing this woman, Brandis, whoever she is, over me.
Right.
This guy that you say you want to date.
Right.
Rich would have been irritated because he would have been like, what are you doing?
Right.
I thought you said you were doing fashion. It
right.
doesn't make sense. Because they wouldn't have had the understanding of us,
right.
enough experience with us to trust that we can handle something else
Absolutely.
on top of everything else.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And they wouldn't have been nurtured enough to know that they were good.
Right.
Like, this is not going to replace my time with you.
Right.
You're good. Everybody's good. So making sure that things are in season and
which
not
creates harmony.
Forcing things, yes, will help to create the harmony.
Right.
And I think that's really important for women to kind of keep that in perspective, that just because you see it now doesn't mean it's now.
Right.
Just because you see, yourself, traveling the world doesn't mean you need to book 5 trips next year.
Right.
You don't have to stamp your passport in 1 year. Maybe it means that you just need to start preparing your heart for the fact that you're going to be off ground sometimes, and that you're not going to be at every brunch. You're not going to be able to do everything with your friends if you're traveling abroad, or maybe it's just about opening your mind up to things,
Absolutely.
not necessarily booking it.
So Sybil, have you always had harmony?
Mm-mm.
You haven't.
Mm-mm.
So how'd you learn it?
trial and error, like
Okay.
complete failure.
Okay.
But you know what? I've always had the courage to say no.
Okay.
I would say that. I definitely have kept discernment very strong. But when I first got married and I was doing a lot of serving at the church that we were a part of at that time, we didn't have harmony. Everything for us was work and church.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of life happening.
Okay.
So we spent so much time investing into things that I wasn't very present,
I
like
think
with
we
friends.
met at the end of that stage.
Mm-hmm. No. Well, you met in it. Because and I'd be like, Brandis, I can't.
Yes.
I can't.
Yes.
I can't. Because I felt like I had to choose one thing over the other. I'm sure that frustrated you. I'm sure. I'm sorry.
For each his own.
I'm sorry, Brandis. I know. I'm sorry.
No, I do. I remember that season.
You hear how she said that? I remember that season, and I hated it. But it's true. I felt like I had to choose one over the other.
Right.
And I had to go through a lot of error. And I felt like I began to start feeling regrets about my time. And I didn't like that feeling. So I started to balance in. I started to plug in certain things to test it in my system. And I realized, oh, you know what? It's not that my husband is saying no. It's not that my calendar says no. I'm making an active choice to pit things against each other. Right. Instead of seeing how they can work together. And so I started to accept more friend time. Right. Outside of like things. It used to be if you didn't fit into my work, my entrepreneur schedule, you didn't fit. Right. Meaning if it wasn't a business meeting, a business lunch, I wasn't taking lunches. Wow. I wasn't, because I was like, no, I'm in build mode. I'm in build mode. Right. And all I got, not thinking that being relational with people, just connecting on like woman stuff, opens doors for us to just grow whatever we're going to grow. Absolutely. But you were faithful. You never gave up on me.
Well, you know, I have a sensitivity around that too. So I'm a PK. And so I have a lot of sensitivity around it.
You just waited me out.
And I have to let people go through, you
waited me out. But you know what? Having Sam really shifted everything, because it helped me to realize so many people showed up despite the fact that I was canceling on them. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Your heart has always been the same.
My heart, but I would send gifts and things but not show up. Right. Or I would show up and then roll out quick. Right. And that's just not fair, because I don't want people treating me that way. Yeah. But it was, and I had to be very honest, like, wow.
But you always had your door open.
I always had but you always had to come to my door.
That's true. That's true. Great girlfriend. I don't know if Sybil stepped in my apartment.
I did. I stepped in your apartment like 4 or 5 times. Not a lot though. But you didn't invite me either. And that's the other thing. You can't get mad when people stop inviting you because you don't show up, because you don't have any harmony. So anyway, but no, I didn't always have it. I felt like I had to choose one over the other. I didn't know how to make everything work harmoniously. I was making phone calls for people on the backside thinking, oh, if I make phone calls for people, that'll excuse the fact that I didn't show up for their birthday party. Right. If I send a gift, that's going to make up for the fact. I was like an absentee friend.
It's okay.
I was.
Oh
my gosh, I just had a revelation.
I'm
making up for it now, right?
Okay. Totally making up
because for it. Now I realized much later that I didn't want people to be there for me. And all of my friends, I will tell you girlfriends, my friends stuck it out.
They did.
They really stuck it out. They just waited me out.
They did.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. Jesus. Oh, thank you, Lord. I really am. So anyway, let's move into our tips. So we've prepared 5 tips for creating work-life harmony. And again, ladies, we want to stress the fact that you are going after harmony and not balance, right? And I just want to tell you guys real quick, in case we have to smack in your ear, we had to take a little break to get into these sweet, tart, chewy minis that are absolutely delicious. I'm not even a candy person, but I saw these at Rite Aid and I was like, let me grab those real quick. I knew you would appreciate them.
They're so good.
All right. So, number 1, this is my favorite, and that is simply being led by God. Straight up. If you don't have the connection with God, and if He's not giving you directions or setting your GPS for the day, there's so many places where you'll miss it just because you're doing what you want to do, which may not necessarily be what He wants you to do. So it's very crucial that you set your day and set your course by doing what God is telling you is next, or
Absolutely.
knowing what He wants in store for you.
Absolutely. Number two is just prioritizing things.
Amen.
So it's like knowing like everything can't be a priority all at once.
Nope.
So there are going to be seasons in your life where one thing kind of take precedence over everything else.
Yes.
And so that's not going to be balance.
No.
But it's going to be harmony.
It's going to be harmony. For example, you know, when you're single, everything that you want comes first. I mean, it's all about you. When you get married, things shift quite a bit.
Things definitely shift.
There's this man who is occupying part of your time, part of your life.
Absolutely.
And he deserves that space. And you have to prioritize him. You have to prioritize, God, then him, yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have these kids, or one kid. Then you add an extra kid, and however many you stack. But the net of it is, if you don't prioritize, you'll miss it, because you'll think that everything is still all about you, and it's not.
Right. And then there's also a season, like when I first started my business,
Mm-hmm.
my business was priority for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was, in a relationship at the time with Rich,
Mm-hmm.
but my business required so much of my time.
Mm-hmm.
And it needed that.
Right.
It needed that type of attention so that I could actually live this life that I'm living now.
Right.
So it's like seasons for different, there's different seasons where different things will require more time.
That is so true. That's so true. And if you keep everything led, like if you keep yourself spirit led, the priority part comes easy.
Right.
And then it takes us to number 3, which is saying no to those things that don't fit into what your system is. If
Absolutely.
Things don't fit, if people are asking you to go out to brunch, and you know that you need to be spending time with your family, or you know that you need to just spend time alone, maybe you need to just go have some time reading some books, or maybe you just need to have some time to rest, or maybe you just don't want to go because you don't feel led to go. It's okay to say no.
Absolutely.
It's okay. No is okay. It's okay to say, I can't make this one. Keep me posted on the next one. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm staying home today, but you guys enjoy yourself. It's okay to say that without feeling like you're letting people down.
Yeah. I mean, last week, I really felt like me and Rich just needed time with our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of said no to company
Mm-hmm.
most of all of last week, which was really tough for me because most of the time I want people to come over, but I really felt like we just needed that time with just us 3.
Yeah.
And it was so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what my family needed at the time.
Yeah. It could also be a job offer. A lot of times we'll get an offer to a company and everything looks amazing, but something is telling you no.
Yeah.
And you're like, but the package looks so great, but I'm feeling like this is a no. It's okay to say no. You don't know what that leading is protecting you from.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's going to throw your harmony totally off if you take this new position, or maybe it's going to completely, apply pressure that's beyond what you can manage if you take it. So it's like keeping that instinct present and being willing to apply it wherever it needs to be.
Absolutely. And the next one is just creating a time management tool. And I'm going to actually have Sybil take this.
Yes. I mean, I strongly recommend that you budget your time like you budget your money. And so I allocate time to God. That's my intimate time is like prayer, quality time with God. I have that budgeted. I have time budgeted towards myself, which is like time for me to work out, should I choose to, which I need to do more, or time for me to just read, or time for me to just sit, whatever I want to do, just me time. I have time budgeted for my husband, which is like our date nights, or time at night where we need to just connect or talk over things. And I have time budgeted for my kids, which is in the mornings before they go to school, and when they come home in the afternoons. Most of my friends know I'm like, I'll hit you up after 9 because my kids go to bed at 8:30. Then I need to take 30 minutes to do whatever I got to do. 9 o'clock, I'm available again. But most people know, don't hit me up between like 6 and 8:30 because I'm highly unlikely to answer the phone.
Right. No,
I'm not available. And then I have my time budgeted for work. And you guys know, I work like 65 to 70 hours some weeks, depending on if I have a heavy deadline. And I take that time for my sleep time because I'm exchanging that time. Or if I know that I'm under a certain deadline and I need to shift time with my family or shift time, my personal time, I will shift it to make sure that I have harmony. But whatever the case is, I always budget it. And if I have to give time, extra time in one place, I extract it from another.
Absolutely.
As long as it is spirit led. I cannot stress that enough.
Absolutely.
So, number 5, which is making a gumbo. And Brandis is brilliant at doing this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, again, it's so difficult to segment everything in your life. You make it so much more complicated for yourself when you do that. So if you can create a situation where literally everything in your life kind of flows together and works together and is in harmony with each other, it just makes your life so much easier.
That's true.
Yeah, so that means that you then have to have really great friendships in your world that kind of understands like what's important to you and what you have to prioritize at the time.
Yeah. And
people who are going to be there for you, even, you know, when you have to prioritize and you're an absentee friend and they're still there.
Shade.
You know, you need people who understand what seasons you're in.
Yeah.
And everything kind of flows in your life together, and you don't have to, you know, turn the channel, I guess.
That's true.
You know, you can just kind of bring everything together, which is nice.
And feel free to take people out that gumbo when they don't mix. It's all good to take to say, you know what, right now, this person doesn't fit in the mix.
They're not fitting.
They're not in the mix, and that's got to be okay. I think sometimes we make that part complicated. When you're cooking, don't make it complicated. Yeah. Honestly, like if a person... And
sometimes it's difficult, though. I mean, again, we'll go back to walking away from friendship. Sometimes that part is very, very, very difficult, especially when you feel like this person needs you and you really want to be there for them, and it's more that you're working out for them, but they're not working out for you. It's tough. You know, it's because... if you're a loving, caring person, you want to be there for people. But if it's not, you know, creating harmony in your life, then you kind of have to let it go.
You do. You have to trust that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you need to go back to them in another time and say, I didn't do the right thing, that's okay too. But that gumbo, when you said that, it really hit me hard because I realized, and so something else that I do, like in that 6 to 8:30 time frame, 6:30 to 8:30 time frame, if someone wants to be a part of that time, they're welcome to come over my house and share bath time, share dinner time, be a part of that gumbo. My gumbo is very much family driven.
Right.
And people know if you want to be a part of my gumbo, come plug in, or I'll plug into your gumbo however we mix. But I think it's really important to be willing to stand up for that gumbo. Like stand up for your mix.
Yes.
Don't let people come in and be like, you know what, you spend a lot of time with Rich, or you spend a lot of time on this, or you spend a lot of time. You can easily say, no, I feel very confident and peaceful about the way that I manage what I'm doing because I know that I'm doing it the way it needs to be done.
So I'm going to flip this real quick on this last one. Don't be, because sometimes people are upset because you won't go out of your way to try to fit within their gumbo. So it can be flipped too. So if I'm not working for your gumbo, feel free to let me go.
Yeah, and absolutely.
And be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I need to be okay with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Both parties need to be okay with that.
And what's interesting,
so sometimes you're that person.
Oh my God, I know. I am completely that person
sometimes you're that person that's not fitting into somebody's gumbo.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with either you compromise or make whatever adjustments you need to make to fit within, you know, their pot, or you let them live.
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. It's being very mature about it.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. I'm not gonna make me some gumbo. No, girlfriends, we hope you got something out of this. This is just us scratching the surface on the harmony part. And there's so many other details that we go into once we start talking to, like you said, the singles, the marrieds, the moms, and so forth. But we really, really, really hope that you got something out of it. We can't wait to see your questions and your comments that you send in to us. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, thanks to our husbands, our families, and our great girlfriends for trusting us with their go-to stories for everything, life, love, and laughter.
Yes, yes, yes. You're not gonna thank Rich directly?
Yes, thank you, babe. Thank you, Rich.
He's gonna group it.
I just grouped him. I'm sorry, sweetie. Thank you so much to my amazing husband, Rich, who is so super supportive of me and the great girlfriend. And to my little munchkin, my little peanut, my little love bug, my little baby love, Sky Grace. So thank you to her who has been quiet throughout this entire recording.
Yes, she is here, y'all. Y'all don't even realize the Sky is in the building and she's just chilling out. So thank you, Sky. Thank you, Kwaku, for being just all things amazing to me. And Sam and Philly, I call them bunnies. They're my little bunnies. I love my bunnies. I just thank God for them. So thank you so much, guys, and to our families. You guys can listen on our website
at thegreatgirlfriends.com,
iTunes,
The Great Girlfriend,
Stitcher,
The Great Girlfriend,
Blueberry,
The Great Girlfriend.
Remember to check us out on Instagram,
The Great Girlfriend,
Facebook,
The Great Girlfriend,
Twitter,
_great GFS.
Look at you. And tell all your friends to do it as well. So make sure you're visiting us in all those places, posting your questions, you're sharing with friends.
Keep listening and keep being
a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're signing off. Bye.
Peace.